Hello witches, and welcome back to Activist Witch, where we discuss witchcraft and activism. You can call me Isha, my pronouns are she, they, and in this video we're gonna go through the folk stories, traditions, spells and magic for the month of October in Celtic British tradition and in Italian tradition, where I'm from. Basically we're gonna look at why October is the month of the dead, going back all the way to Roman festivals. But before we get started, let me remind you that I've opened a Ko-fi, which is an alternative to Patreon that takes less from creators. And on there, you can do a one-off donation, a recurring monthly donation, or even get a tarot reading with me, Italian style. The low-income option starts at £5. And for the foreseeable future, part of my profits from tarot reading go directly to support Coaches to Gaza, who supports Palestinian refugees in Cairo, and the Good Law Project, who's trying to bring back trans rights to the UK, because trans rights are human rights. So if you decide to support me there, thank you so very much. I love that both the British and the Italian Almanac are all focused on the same kind of legend, even if it's of course adapted. So let's get into the British traditions and then we'll go to the Italians. But just so you know, for a taster, we're going to talk about Lemuria as well. Lemuralia, which was the Roman festival of the dead. We talked about it a bit in May because it used to be in May, even in Christian tradition, when realistically the Christian tradition cannibalized it and absorbed it from the Roman pagan tradition. And then it was moved to end of October, beginning of November. We're going to look exactly at why. October. Important dates on October for the current British calendar are: hey, October is Black History Month, so it's very interesting to see what kind of activities are around because of that. We should know our history. When we don't remember history, we are bound to repeat its mistakes. Sounds familiar? Apparently the 1st of October is an old harvest gathering festival in the UK, in British culture, folk culture. And the 1st of October was considered the in-gathering traditional English harvest festival. The 21st of October is Apple Day. On the 26th, it's a Sunday. We're going to change the clocks. We're going to bring back the clocks an hour because we're going to move from British summertime and we're going to go back to Greenwich Mean Time. And then, of course, we're going to talk about the 31st, Sowing, the Celtic New Year, and modernly Halloween. Something that I like about the British Almanac is that she tries. Leah Linders tries, and every month there tries to be attention to something that is British but not white. Because, you know, the British Empire has a long history of colonialism, but the people that were colonized from South Asia, from the Caribbean, from Africa, they are also British citizens. They are rightfully here, part of the country and the culture, and I like that the British Almanac tries to pepper here and there. So she tries. Let's give her credit for the fact that she tries. Could she do better? Yes, every white person could. Since I've been accused of treating white people ways. There's the one thing that I will say to all white people: you could all be doing better. But so could I, in a way. What happens in October that I like has been inserted here is Diwali, the festival of lights of Hindu origin. I'm gonna read it for you. Diwali is the Hindu festival of lights taking place this month on the darkest night of the year, at the end of the lunisolar month of Ashwin, at the start of the month of Kartik. Kartik is connected to Kartika, the cuttings or those that mark the break of the year. They are known to us as the Pleiades, a beautiful star cluster visible all winter long, associated with Sowing and the beginning of the Celtic year. India lunisolar months begin on the day of the new moon. Amavasya, when the moon and sun are in the same part of the sky and so nights are dark. Festivities begin 2 days before Amavasya and extend 2 days after, but the third day is the most important, considered the darkest night in the Hindu calendar. Diwali, also known as Deepavali, and in the Sanskrit Deepa means lamp, light or lantern, while Avali means a row, so the name Deepavali means row of lights. Here's the story. Rama, a warrior prince, married Sita, a beautiful princess, but they were forced into exile in the forest. There, Sita was abducted by a 10-headed demon, Ravana, and carried to his island. Rama met Hanuman, the Monkey King, and they created a bridge to the island where they had a fierce battle and killed Ravana with a magic arrow. Rama and Sita returned home through the dark night, but people had heard of their return and put out hundreds of oil lamps to guide them home. On Diwali, for the Festival of Lights, people put little oil lamps outside their homes and in windows and welcome in visitors with delicious sweets such as barfi, halwa and jalebi. Diwali is a story of good triumphing over evil and of the light over darkness. The moon goes dark, but its light will soon be back. It's lovely to see that traditions around the entirety of the world go along the same things. Like, of course, there are all these stories about going down into the dark and coming back and using lights or bonfires or lamps. It's amazing to see that the seasons, based on this little inclination that the earth have created all these legends and traditions that unify us all. And I think if people focused more on that, you know, the world would be a better place and all of that. Hey, speaking of which, considering that the Hindu calendar follows a lunisolar month, let's talk about moons, shall we? On the 7th of October, we have our full moon. And this full moon is the first super full moon of the year, and the moon is in Aries. When the moon is full, it means that it's in opposition to the sun. It's currently Libra season, so the sun is in Libra. So there's this opposition between the energy of moon in Aries and the energy of the sun in Libra. When we have a supermoon, the moon is up to 14% bigger and 30% brighter. Because, you know, according to how the moon goes around, sometimes it comes slightly closer. Because of that, the tides, which are connected to the moon, will be very intense. The spring tides that come just after the full moon, so on the 8th and 9th of October, will be the most dramatic difference of tides that we're gonna have all year. Ruled by Mars, a planet of physical activity, the moon in Aries favors looking into matters of health, the body, and physicality. The full moon in Aries, during Libra season, is a powerful time for passion and empowering many Aries moon efforts. But it also invites reflection in weighing between the sun and indecisive Libra and the moon in headstrong Aries. Growth can be found in balancing these two polarities. Sometimes you need to be passionate and spontaneous, and other times you must consider multiple perspectives. Aries in moon magic can be considered for works about victory and success, how to overcome any hurdle. Because the moon in Aries can inspire physicality, consider magic to boost your vitality, vigor, and energy, or spells that incorporate movement. Let's dance around, let's raise energy like that. It's also a good time for spells boosting motivation, inspiration, and passion. If you've been lacking courage, the moon in Aries can help you feel more courageous and embody a go-getter attitude. Cast a spell to get things moving and off to a powerful start, and follow your moon magic with action. Because, as we mentioned literally just yesterday when I'm filming at the Critical Thinking Witches Conference, witchcraft is not thoughts and prayers. Intention is not everything, it's essential, but then we need action. You know, just a big general reminder. Once you have used this full moon in Aries for balance between get, go, do, but also kind of reflect because, you know, sun instead is in Libra, we go into the new moon that is finally in Libra after 2 new moons in Virgo. The new moon in Libra is the 21st of October, just before we move into Scorpio season. And when the moon is in Libra, it's a time for beauty, balance, perspective, and cooperation. There's a certain charm and glamour to the luminous moon in this sign because it's Venus ruled. It's the cardinal sign of air, Libra. And therefore, the moon in Libra invites calm, communication, and curiosity to see all perspective. Everybody's happy and comes together and loves each other and tries to be balanced. That's the idea. The moon in Enchanted Libra invites harmonious energy which can facilitate cooperation and diplomacy. The new moon in Libra also invokes a favorable time for new beginnings and fresh starts in Libra matters of all kinds, such as starting a self-care routine, taking luxurious aromatic baths, try expressing yourself through style, or display more art around your home. Art magic is something that is never given enough attention, because if you also just like to do something with your creativity, with your hands, why wouldn't you bring it to your practice? Why wouldn't you infuse that with intention while you're actually doing something? That actually reminds me, there's something that, again, it happened just last night, so it's very fresh in my head. But something that I loved when we talked about activism magic was something that Imogen, Sapling Tarot, brought up. That is their art/spell work when they do zines. So they have a zine that is Is it a spell? Do we want to call it a spell? Imogen, you tell me. Do we want to call it a spell? You're saying kinda. It's a protection spell because it brings with it all the information that as a protester you need to know when you have an encounter with officials. And actually what they did is put a sigil in this zine with the intention of protection, and then the zine actually gives you practical information of what to do if you find yourself in a situation that is not great for a protester. And on top of it all, the profits from the selling of this zine go to Coaches Together. I'll put the link down in the description below so you can get it as well, because it's always useful to have the kind of information when you go to protest, because we don't exactly live in a country where everybody is safe or everything is fair. Not at all. I mean, yeah, let's quickly go into sunrise and sunset, but I don't have great news for you because we are past the autumn equinox, and not only the days shorten, but we also change the clocks. The clocks go back. So whereas on the 1st of October, our sun is going to rise at 7:12 a.m. and it's going to set at 18:52, 6:52, 10 to 7 in the evening. So we have slightly less than 12 hours of light. Yeah, it gets sincerely worse by the end of October. Consider that we changed the time on the 26th, so the clocks go back an hour. And on the 31st of October, therefore, our sunrise is at 7:03. So it would have actually been at 8:03, that's the thing. So it would have lost an hour in the morning. And then the sun is going to set at 10 to 5, 16:49 here in Cardiff. So it would have still been an hour lost in the evening as well. And now actually it's 2 hours lost in the evening because, you know, clocks go back, so sunrise is pretty much the same, but suddenly we lost 2 hours of light in the evening. And that's how summertime works. Now, I've mentioned it before, the British Almanac this year of 2025 has the theme of megaliths, and it has such a nice story for the one this month that actually I'm going to go into it. Some months I've skipped it, but this one is nice. The megalith of the month of October 2025 is Tigh Bodach. I hope that I'm pronouncing it correctly. So is this... it's amazing to me. Technically, it's not a megalith that it's protected because scholars say that it's not prehistoric, they say it's modern. However, around this megalith, this congregation of stones, there's a ritual that is done yearly that is said to be the longest uninterrupted pagan ritual, possibly pre-Celtic ritual, that has been going on for potentially thousands of years. So legend has it that in this valley in the Highlands in Scotland, one day this family arrives, father, mother, children, and when this family arrives, the villagers offer them a home, and the family being there brings such fertility to this valley. It's amazing. The summers are nice and warm, and the winters are not terribly cold. Weather. One day, the family has to leave, but tells the villagers, you know what, we're gonna leave you stones in place of us with sort of our shape. And for as long as you respect this ritual, you will keep having this weather. And the ritual is that there are these 7 stones, I think, inside this sort of hut. And there are 2 big stones. One is supposed to be the Cailleach, the crone goddess, and the other one is supposed to be Bodach, the old man, her husband. And the third one is their child, Nighian. There are other smaller stones that are the other children. I don't think that those are moved, but that's what happens. Every year, the local people take the stones out on the 1st of May so that the family can enjoy the nice weather from May to the 31st of October to Sowing. On the 31st of October, the stones are brought back in the hut so that the family can be safe and warm and protected in the hut for the winter. It's amazing to me. I don't know why I didn't know about this. I've tried to look up more information about that. It doesn't even have a Wikipedia page. The Wikipedia page just sends you back to the Cailleach. But I love the idea that this ritual just keeps going. The locals still keep doing this. And actually, the site has been threatened by, I think, hydraulic works or something like that. And there's not like anything that protects it, like the National Trust. It's just the locals that keep trying to protect it and keep this ritual going. I don't know, it's beautiful, and I hope that it keeps going, and I hope that it's not threatened, but I wanted to share because it seems like not only such a beautiful thing that this ritual has got to our days, it keeps going along with what I was saying before about Diwali. There keep on being sort of the same story, no matter where in the world, if it's in India or if it is in Scotland, and then we'll go to Italy. But it's this same story that comes from the seasons of when we go in the darker side of the year, then things need to be done to protect ourselves throughout the dark side of the year, and then coming out to spring. And I think it's beautiful that we all share this, regardless of heritage, regardless of where we are, regardless of what the history is. Our ancestors all knew and shared this, and I wish we could remember that. Right, I'm becoming a pussy on these things. Let's go to Italy, shall we? Like, Italy is quite soft in October. I literally counted the pages and I was like, oh, it's just 4 pages on October. The summer months had like 10 pages on the Almanac for everything, which I guess makes sense because the main thing of Italy, throughout the entirety of Italy, north to south, is farming, is agriculture. Most of these folk traditions come from farmers, which is possibly the reason why I feel particularly close to it, because so far, 60-70% of the things in this book, I was like, oh, that's why my grandparents were doing that. So I kind of like that, I'll be honest. This is the picture for October, which I think is really cute. So, you know that we have gone into saints, into things before. No. October is split in 2 parts in Italy. The first half of October is for seeding. And while I was reading the book the other day, and I mentioned it to Raven rightfully was like, well, the seeding of what? And I was like, I that's a very good question, but I just know that there's the common understanding of, oh, it's when we put the seeds in the ground. And he was like, yeah, but different things, you put the seeds down at different times. And I was like, no, we just do it in October. I don't know what, but we just do it in October. And then it hit me. The main crop in Italy is wheat. Because, you know, there's a specific kind of wheat that you also use to make pasta, durum with. Italy used to be the only one that could actually grow it properly. So it makes sense that everybody, north to south, just agrees the first half of October is just putting down the seeds, for sowing the seeds. The sowing, it's not the same. Like, we're not calling sowing because it's similar to sowing. I know, but it suddenly felt interesting. Because also there's like, North Italy had the Celts. Like Piedmont, where I come from, had the Celts there. And we have seen it in some legends that then are acquired and transformed into saints' legends in the other months. This applies to the end of October and Samhain as well. Apparently we had a name for Samhain. We're gonna get there. But yeah, the first part of October, it's all about sowing the seeds of wheat mainly throughout the fields. Like, you have gone through the fields in September, you've done the harvest, you have plowed the fields to, you know, renew them and everything. Now you put down and sow the seeds for the harvest next year. And there are a lot of sayings about that, all about basically by which day you need the seeds down, that go from the 15th to realistically the 18th. The 18th is considered the last day that you can actually sow the seeds. By the 18th, which is San Luca, come rain or shine, you need to have sown your seeds, or the field will not yield. So on the 18th of October, which is San Luca, we must have finished the sowing of the seeds. And along with that, we have the last kind of harvest, and we have the harvest for pumpkins, unsurprisingly, turnips, which we had the tradition of in Italy before pumpkins as well, and Nespole, which I did not realize, it's a very Italian thing, medlar fruit, which are like Japanese peaches, sort of. I said to Raven, and Raven was like, never seen this before. I was like, it's a very Italian thing. Who knew? Never thought about it. Nespole are a very Italian thing, apparently. Now, from the 18th of October onwards, it's the second part of the month. And if the first part of the month was dedicated to sowing the seeds, the second part of the month, 18th of October until the 31st, it's all about the dead and respecting the dead and honoring the dead. So you think that it was just the 31st? No, it's much longer than that. So the first thing was that after you sow the seeds in the fields, you stop work in the field. Also because the weather doesn't quite let you, to be honest, there's not much to do there. But it's honestly not something that you do and bother, especially until the 11th of November, which is San Martino. Between the 18th of October, San Luca, and the 11th of November, San Martino, you don't do anything in the fields that is about plowing or digging or moving the dirt in any way, because that way you would be bothering the dead, because you know they are buried, and you don't touch the fields because of that. All the fields, just in case. We discussed at the end of September how the harvest included chestnuts in Italy. I think here in the UK, it's something that I've noticed for the last 2 or 3 years. Our chestnuts are ready like a week after Italy. So if in Italy you start gathering chestnuts by the 29th of September, St. Michaelmas, here in the UK, first week of October is when you go and find chestnuts. Note, here in the UK, it's likely that 2025 is a mast year, which is the kind of year where you get so much more nuts and acorns and chestnuts and all those things, because the trees every few years apparently have a reunion and a meeting and discuss, okay, this is the year where we all do it, and we all spend a lot of energy putting out 3-4 times the amount of seeds and acorns that we do, so that despite the worms and the birds stealing all of our fruit, we will make so many that the birds and the worms will have their belly full, and still there will be something left so that our acorns, seeds and everything can go and actually bring new trees. I think it's fascinating that all the trees of different kinds, the same year, decide, I know what we're gonna do. We're gonna do a mast year today. I think it's amazing. And as a witch, I have to respect the fact that, see, the trees are so clever that they can agree with each other, and we don't know how, but they do it. And then we reap the benefits of it, because again, I can't wait to see how many chestnuts there are going to be. And why did I bring up chestnut again? Because chestnuts are one of the offerings for the dead in Italy, apparently. So you know that the tradition of trick or treat, that we think it's American, that we think it's just children. No, Italy has a tradition that is called Questua. And we talked about it in previous months. It's a thing that happens at different times of the year. It can be children, but not just. It's people going around, knocking on houses for offering, usually for food specifically. And apparently, chestnuts are one of the things that you do in the Questua at the end of October. And apparently the chestnuts are supposed to be a representation of the human experience, because you have the fruit inside that represents the soul that is held or held back by the hedgehog? I call it hedgehog. I know that it's not a hedgehog in this language, but we call it just hedgehog, riccio, around the castagna chestnut in Italy, because, you know, it has all the spikes. What's the name of that? I don't know the name of that, but it's the riccio, which translated literally is just the hedgehog around the castagna chestnut. We still have some days where you can do weather forecast. One of those is the 28th of October, San Simone, San Simon, because apparently if the day was particularly rainy, actually you would have had a nice winter coming, because the legend would have been that Saint Simon would have had the time to be out and collect enough wood for, you know, the earth, the fireplace, to keep warm throughout the winter. So if it's raining, he doesn't have time to gather enough wood, so he will work himself so that the winter will not be as terribly cold or as terribly needing the fire in the fireplace because of that. I like how self-serving we think that saints are. Also, this is the day that you're supposed to plant your garlic bulbs. You plant the garlic bulbs by the 28th of October to then have the fresh garlic that comes in March and April. And this is also the day that you harvest the turnips. And that's the part where I said, oh, you know that actually we had Celts in Italy. And indeed, along with the Celts, we had the sowing tradition of cutting the turnip to make it into the shape of a skull and leave it on the window with a little light inside. You know, before the discovery of the Americas, pumpkins were not something that we had on this side of the pond. So before that, there were turnips, and we did that in Italy as well. So in North Italy, the 31st of October was named La Notte delle Lumere, the Night of Lights, so that the lights that would come through the carving that you've made in a turnip. You would use turnips before you could use pumpkins, again, when they were imported then from the Americas after 1492. And apparently, in origin, these weren't necessarily there to scare people. They were representative themselves of people that have passed away. There's the theory that it could actually represent enemies beaten in battle, because having the head carved into a turnip is sort of reminiscent of when you killed enemies in battle. You cut off their head and put their head on a pike. And after killing and beheading your enemy, putting their head on a pike, you would put them outside of your house for everybody to witness that you have won over them. And the allegory of it with the turnips and pumpkins apparently is to represent the strength against not your enemy, but against death itself. Very modest. And now we go to Samhain, to the Day of the Dead, to Ognissanti, all these days that, again, they come from a tradition that was Roman. There was the Roman festival of Lemuria. Now, we talked about Lemuria in May because there were events about the Lemures, who were the spirits of dead people, but different from the Manes and the Lares, who were the good dead of your ancestors. The Lemures are more concerning to Roman culture because those are considered to be the spirits that had an untimely death or didn't have proper death rites, so they are still wandering around, vagrants, and therefore they are kind of angry, they're kind of bothered, that's not how it's supposed to be. So you try to make them gracious with offerings so that they don't do bad things to you, to your fields, and so on and so forth. Originally, Lemuria was the 9, 11, and 13th of May. You would call upon the Lemures, the Manes, and the Lares to help for the harvest in the fields. But then, come Calendi Maggio, the 1st of May, you would actually tell them, to the dead, you can go back because we're going into good season and this is not exactly for you. So you would actually kick them back into the Hades. And therefore they would just start to come back when the dark season would come. We have seen in August and September, while the light starts to reduce, while you take the cattle from high mountain down to the fields, all those places and spaces start to become the domain of the dead, and this is where we're going. So in 609, Pope Bonifacio IV just decided to overwrite Lemuria with All Saints' Day. At that point, All Saints' Day in 609 was actually celebrated on the 13th of May. So All Saints that we now have on the 1st of November wasn't on 13th of May for a century. So from the 7th to the 8th century, actually All Saints was in May. Until Gregorio III transfers the day from the 13th of May to the 1st of November, because he wanted to rewrite another pagan festival, the pagan festival of Samonios, which is one of the ways, apparently, in which you call Samhain. So we are in the 700 current era at this point. And since All Saints coming from Lemuria also share with Samonio all these practices to soothe and pacify and make offerings to the dead, they just decided, not only we have deleted and overwritten and cannibalized Lemuria 100 years ago, now let's also do that with Samonio Samhain. And that's why we have All Saints now on the 1st of November. And apparently that is where the Questua of going around, according to the original meaning of that, you would go around to collect offerings that then would be given to the dead. And that has survived in the trick-or-treating of the kids now. This is also a time between the 18th of October and then the 11th of November, because all these 20 days are considered for the dead. Apparently, in many different areas of Italy, there are apparitions of processions of just spirits and ghosts. There's a lot to do with ritual food, and so making specific kinds of dinners, leaving a place at the table for your dead, your ancestors to come in and consume it. It reminds me a lot of what I've seen represented in media of the ofrendas of Dia de los Muertos, having all that food there, having their picture out. Yeah, it's something that we used to do in Italy as well. Like, yeah, in Milan there was this tradition of having the table in front of the fireplace with, you know, all the cutlery, all the plates. You have water, you have boiled chestnuts, bread, and a picture of your dearly departed there. You would have their room, the room of your dearly departed, still made with fresh sheets and linen so that they could come and visit and rest in the house as well. And most importantly, this would be a time where you do not do anything about taking stuff outside of the house. You do not even dust. You do not clean the house and brush away the dust, because even that is considered, oh, maybe you're actually kicking away a spirit that then that way will be mad at you because you've kicked it out. So, you know, when I say that I usually clean and cleanse the house at the end of the month, maybe I'm not exactly going to do it at the end of October. Maybe I'm going to do it at that point past the 11th, which is San Martino. And that was it. That was it for October. I hope that this was interesting, and if you like it, I have many more videos about the folkloric traditions of the UK and of Italy. And until the next video, I really hope that we can hex the patriarchy together, because there's need for it.